Hey, it's me, Vicky Marie. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in this crazy world we're living in. Now, gosh, what about this then? It's not a surprise to a lot of us, of course, but oh, where do I start? Where do I start? So, of course, we're going to talk about Nancy. Nancy remains the most important person in this case. Where is Nancy Guthrie? Where is she? What happened to her? Who took her? Did anyone take her? Was she ever there that night? Did she ever go home from Annie and Tomatoes? Or did she go home from Annie and Tomatoes? Was somebody waiting for her? I've said right from the beginning in this case, Nancy Guthrie, this is a question, it's not kidnap, it was never kidnapped. It is plain old-fashioned murder, in my opinion, always has been, right from the beginning. And the motive, of course, will be money, probably, but there's other motives for murder, of course. And it may have been something to do with the family, or it may be somebody else who knows Nancy. But one thing, in my opinion, is 100% certain. It is someone who knows Nancy. Nancy Guthrie, I'm just going to say it now. This is what I thought from the beginning. Nancy Guthrie was murdered by someone she knew. She was targeted deliberately by someone she knew for a reason that we don't know yet. Probably financial. I say it's 80% financial, but do you know what? You don't know. It could be a grudge. Could be a grudge going back years. Then over social media, and these are just pure rumours, we hear that did Nancy have a partner, a boyfriend? And sometimes it's strange for people to imagine that someone at 84 years old could have a boyfriend or a girlfriend. But of course they do. Is this going to come to be something completely off the wall that we never even thought of? Is this a relationship gone wrong? The thing is, we don't know the reason why Nancy was murdered, but in my opinion, she was murdered. It was never a kidnap. It wasn't a burglary gone wrong, in my opinion. It was Nancy being targeted as somebody who wanted her off this planet for whatever reason. Maybe they owed her money. Maybe they had a grudge because she, I don't know, gave them a bad review of it. If it was like a handyman or someone like that. I've seen cases where these people, because the victim has not been happy with the work they've done, they've gone back and murdered them. You can't believe that someone would murder someone just because they gave them a bad review, or said, oh, I wouldn't employ them again, or told their friends not to employ them. But they do. People do. People kill for strange reasons, don't they? But, there's main reasons, isn't there? There's like revenge, there's money, there's love, love triangles, custody battles. But, sometimes it is just pure spite as well. Look at Erin Patterson, the mushroom murderess. No real good reason for murdering those poor people except for spite against her ex-husband, or against them because they weren't considering her important enough. So, people do commit, they do commit murders, don't they, for all sorts of reasons. Anyway, I'm sure you'll let me know your opinions on what happened to Nancy. Did she ever get home from Annie and Tomatoes? So, this isn't going to do... Oops, hang on. This revelation now that we've had, it is a revelation. having said that, I think most of us knew it anyway for a long time. All this talk about these ransom notes, and it's sort of geared up, isn't it, over the last week or so? You almost feel this, is this deliberate? I hope it is. You feel like the FBI are gearing up to something. That's how it feels. You know, why this week has it suddenly been all about the ransom notes, all about the ransom notes? You feel like there's some sort of plan going on here from the FBI. I hope that's true. Was it to lull the perpetrator into a false sense of security? Was it to try and drag them out to get them to send more ransom notes? Because although they're saying that the ransom notes aren't genuine, that doesn't mean to say they're not coming from the perpetrator. Because as I've said before in videos, if you want to cover up a murder, what's the best way of doing it? Trying to pretend it's a kidnap. I've seen it so many times on true crime videos. Oh yes, some man called round for her, you know, and she got in a car with 4 men, or you know, I don't know, never saw her again after that. These are ways of trying to lead off the police. So is this what happened with these ransom notes? Although they're not genuine that Nancy was kidnapped, are they genuine in the sense of the perpetrator sent them to throw the FBI off the scent? Well, you know, we have to trust in the FBI because, you know, they are special, aren't they? You know, the FBI are, you know, they are elite, and then, you know, known across the world for their astuteness, for their resources, everything that's at their disposal. They've got the creme de la creme. I mean, what's made me laugh sometimes on social media, you know, you'll see someone who's quite good with, I don't know, with internet sort of investigations, and they go, oh, well, we hope the FBI have looked at this, or hope, as if the FBI have got the best of the best. If you were really the best, you'd be working for the FBI. You know, like, why do people just assume that, you know, they get an expert on their podcast? Oh, we've got such and such expert in technology, that they're going to know more than the FBI or be better at that technology than the FBI. I would never, ever assume that. You know, I'm not saying they're not good at technology. Of course they are. But are they better than the FBI? Or, you know, the way they say, oh, we hope the FBI have looked at this and we hope the FBI have looked at that. I think we can rest assured that the FBI have looked at everything that is possible to be looked at. And is this, I feel sort of excited because I feel like something's going to break. And this whole thing about the ransom notes and gearing it up this week has been almost a deliberate ploy. And notice now that the FBI, I mean, I'm going to say my hellos in a minute and thank yous, but just to say before I cut off, well, not cutting off, but before I go to that, notice where the FBI have released the information that they think the ransom notes are not genuine. Not to a podcaster, not to, oh, my sources say this and my sources say that. They've gone to Reuters first to break this news, you know, and Reuters are a reliable news information source, aren't they? So it's, you know, there's a lot of learning curves with this. Anyway, thank you for watching. Thank you for liking. Thank you for subscribing. Please subscribe. Very important. Free way you can help my channel. Thank you for caring about Nancy, of course. Really, do you think we're going to get an answer before, where are we now? It is Tuesday. Do you think we'll get an answer before the end of the week? Are there some arrests coming? It's quite bold of them to come out and say these ransom notes are not genuine. It's like they're trying to flush somebody out. Anyway, thank you. Special thank you to my members. These of you that go that little extra way to help my channel. Thank you so much. Thank you to those of you buy Ko-fis or coffees. Thanks to those of you who've bought merchandise. I've got one of my glasses today. It's a wine glass, but obviously I've not got wine in it at the moment. I've got pineapple juice. It's a very hot day here in Spain. Those of you who don't know, I'm based in Spain. It's 28 degrees. So thank you to those of you who have supported my channel in all those ways. Emailed me, messaged me, left nice comments, etc., or even horrible comments, because you do help the algorithm. Thank you. I'm going to sneeze now. Excuse the state of me. I didn't have much time to get ready this morning, so I've just thrown a bit of makeup on. Busy morning this morning, but anyway, never mind. Yeah, that's it. So thank you. As always, just thank you, thank you, thank you. I appreciate you, all of you, each and every one of you, that for some reason like watching my channel. Thank you. Okay, hello, lovely lurkers. Hope you're all well, keeping cool in the heat where you are. Hello to Reaper Crew. Thank you. What things new? Don't forget to, comment. What do you think about it? Were you like me? Did you always think they were fake? Or did you think they were real? So let's come into the chat. Oh, hippie. Hippie says, hang on tight, Vicky. Yeah, it's going to be a bumpy ride, isn't it? You feel like things really brewing now, don't you? It feels like it's accelerating. But I have thought that before, so I need to calm down, really. The dam has broken. That's what that Maureen O'Connell said, wasn't it? The ex-FBI agent. She said that she felt the FBI were close to identifying Porch Guy, and then the dam would break, everything would be let loose. So the FBI has swept away all the kidnapping nonsense. But do you know what? That kidnapping nonsense, do you think that's given the FBI a smokescreen as well? While everybody was talking about the kidnapping notes and this, that, and the other, they're looking away from, because the thing is, the FBI don't want all that noise around, do they? It might be part of the reason that the streamers were arrested, etc. Do they want to go back there and search in the area? I mean, because I know some people believe Nancy might be in Mexico. Personally, I don't believe so. I think she's round about there somewhere. But imagine if the FBI descended to search again while there's streamers outside. Do you think that might be part of the reason why they've been trying to get rid of the streamers? Because, I don't think those charges against the streamers are going to get upheld. But was it just a way of clearing the place so that they could go back and search? Is that a possibility? Anyway, so old hippie also says they will now zero in on the family and the money problems. Quite possibly. It could be the family. Could well be the family, but we don't know that certain. But I think 100% it is somebody who knew Nancy. I've said it from the beginning. They knew Nancy, they targeted Nancy deliberately. They were comfortable walking around that house. When you watch that video, that Porch Guy or girl, whichever way you look at it, they were completely comfortable. They weren't flummoxed at all. They weren't nervous. Now, some people have said, oh, well, they were high on drugs or whatever, and that's why they weren't nervous. Maybe. But remember, it's pitch black there. If that was a house they weren't familiar with, they would be more nervous. They were familiar with that house, whoever it was, whether it's family, whether it's just somebody who's familiar with the house for other reasons, I don't know, but they were familiar. Well, let's have no more poor Annie and Tommaso. Well, you know, we'll see. If Annie and Tommaso are found to be connected, well, yeah, no more poor. But, you know, don't forget, they still haven't been arrested, or as far as we know. So we have to wait and see. Hi, David. Hi, Lily. Hi, Darren. No, I said they are reliable, old hippie. Look. Oh, it's Wednesday, is it? Is it Wednesday? Oh, God, I don't even know what day it is. Old hippie, put your hearing aid in. I said Reuters are reliable, not unreliable. You can rely on Reuters. That's 100% certain. That's what I said. Put your hearing aids in. You listen it. Put, as Judge Judy says, put your listening ears on. No, Reuters are reliable. Of course they are. Of course they are. So, wow. I mean, I sort of was surprised. I'm not surprised at the news. Not surprised at the news because I've always thought that the kidnapping thing was a load of cojones. But I'm surprised that the FBI have come out and said that and gone to Reuters to, you know, they haven't gone to TMZ notice, you know, like those kidnappers was. Makes you wonder, was it even the FBI that's sending these notes? Is that a possibility? Oh, hold the phone. So we've got all these kidnap notes and the Bitcoin wallet and the this, that, and the other going out that the FBI have not been able to trace any of those people or that Bitcoin thing. Is it possible? I mean, you know, I know this is a bit stretching it, but you know what? Nothing's impossible in this case. Is it the FBI sending out these? Certainly, maybe not the first two kidnap notes, but after that, is it the FBI trying to wind up the person who's sending the kidnap notes? It always seems strange to me that they've never been able to find out where they came from, or trace the Bitcoin wallet, or trace the IP address of the. No, it's got to be someone who's really internet savvy or tech savvy to be able to bamboozle the FBI. Now I'm thinking, is it the FBI's been bamboozling everybody? Just don't know, do you? Okay, so for anyone who might possibly be watching who doesn't know about this case, though, you know, I'm sure if you're watching this, you know about this case. Let's just look at Nancy. This is Nancy Guthrie, 84 years old. She's not 84 on that photo. I think that photo must be a few years ago. This is perhaps a more up-to-date photo. 84 years old. Apparently fast asleep in her bed in Tucson, Arizona. She is the mother of Savannah Guthrie, who's a famous TV journalist. Gosh, don't you feel like when the truth comes out in this case, it's going to absolutely floor everyone? So this is one of Nancy's daughters, Savannah Guthrie, as I say, famous TV presenter in America. This is her son, Cameron. He's is he retired pilot, or he was in the Marines, was he, or some? He's an ex-serviceman. He's got a distinguished career. And then there is Annie and her husband Tommaso. Annie is a poet, very dark poetry that Annie writes. Tommaso is a teacher in a high school, very popular, apparently. And you know, I've been getting these comments, people putting comments, oh, Tommaso's only been in the USA 5 years. He's not only been in the USA 5 years. He's been in the USA at least 11 years because he was born in Italy, he's Italian. I don't know exactly how long he's been in the USA. Don't really know how he and Annie met, but they've got a son who's a young teenager, so that he's been here that long at least. So it's rubbish when people have said, "Oh, he's only been in the USA 5 years." Rubbish. He's been in the USA a long time, and he's married Annie, and they've had a child together. And you know, as far as we know, he's a popular teacher. He's been in a rock band, and yeah, these Annie and Tommaso might be behind all of this, and they might not be. I don't know until the FBI tell me. But somebody did it. So somebody in the dead of night, I think it was January the 30th, this person, well, we don't actually know for certain the date of these pictures that were taken on the door cam. Somebody was there. They've got a gun there. They've got this rucksack that was bulging to the seams. Some people have said that there was a shape of a drone in the rucksack. When they looked at the rucksack from the back, it's bulging. What was in it? Some people have said it was a drone. Well, you know, what would they want a drone for? In the minute, don't forget, this was, you know, early hours of the morning. It's pitch black. You're not going to be a drone, is it? Or I'd be very surprised if it was a drone. But anyway, they did have a gun. The other thing that surprises me is they've got reflective strips on their rucksack. Well, if they were trying to, trying to be discreet, why would you have reflexive strips? Why are they not dressed in black completely? They've got the balaclava on, they've got the black gloves on. But then they've got this rucksack with reflective strips. And this, of course, was the close-up picture. Very dark moustache and facial hair, dark eyes, which, as you know, to me always seems strange. Reminds me of Charlie Chaplin in the black and white films of old, where you would put the black eyeline around to make yourself show up. Even the moustache doesn't look genuine to me. Then we've got this man, Luke Daly. Is he anything to do with it? 2 people have been detained and questioned in this case, but released without charge. Luke Daly is one of them. Is it going to turn out that it's something to do with him? Or something to do with anyone who used to go there and clean the pool, or do the housework, or look after Nancy? You know, we don't know yet. All we know, so the breaking news is that the ransom notes are all a load of rubbish, but we don't know any more yet as to then what the truth is of what happened to Nancy. Do we? Could be Annie and Tommaso, could be the pool cleaner, could be the cleaner. Yeah, I agree with you, old hippie. I agree with you completely. The FBI knows a lot more. And we've always sort of hoped that, but we didn't know for sure, did we? But I think now we know for sure. I think the FBI know exactly who this person is. It's the evidence that they've not had. And that's what makes you wonder, because that second detainment of Luke Daly, that was the FBI who did that. That was a bigger, how can I explain it? The first person that was detained, Carlos, who was a delivery driver, I think that was a more low-key detainment. And then this second detainment of Luke Daly, well, we all thought, didn't we, that that was going to be it, that this was going to be the time. You know, this was right in the beginning, but it came to nothing, did it? No charges were laid. He wasn't even arrested, and he may have absolutely nothing to do with it. But then he did that weird interview with Brianna Whitney where he put about 4 layers of clothing on, shaved his head, clean shaven, came on and said, oh, I don't see any resemblance. I don't know why anyone thought it might be me in the picture. But of course, you know, this is what he used to look like. So why did he deliberately change his appearance? Just asking. I've never been able to move away from him, really. But anyway, if it turns out that he's completely innocent, then I'm sorry. But, you know, for thinking that. But that, my mind has always wandered in that direction. Did he owe? Because he's, you know, but I don't know what the motive would be. The thing is, Nancy was a generous person, from what we can gather. Had she lent somebody some money and then it was time for them to pay it back and they didn't want to pay it back, it could have been Annie and Tommaso, it could be anyone. Did she know someone who knew she had money and, you know, then it was coming to time when they were supposed to pay her back and they either didn't want to pay her back or couldn't pay her back. Is that the motive? So anyway, these are the things that we're going to find out hopefully quite soon. I feel like something's, because for the FBI to say this, anyway, let's have a look at what the FBI have said is probably the best idea, isn't it? So really, for the past couple of months, the only people that were keeping this story alive were the streamers and getting arrested for their trouble, really. But now you're thinking, have they been arrested? There could be searches going on right as we speak now. But did the streamers have to be taken out of the equation before they could go back and try and look for Nancy more in secret? When is the DNA going to come back from the FBI lab? No, is it going to be soon? DNA can take ages, even at the FBI lab, even if they fast track it. You know, it can take an awful long time, can't it? Because if they've found some DNA and they've got to trace it through, and they're not in the DNA sort of codis or whatever, they've got to try and trace it through genetic genealogy, haven't they? And that can take a long time. So is that what's going on as we speak? It's interesting, isn't it? Very interesting. So we're going to have a look at an article in Sky. So suddenly now, hi Kelly, suddenly now it's reappeared in the mainstream media as well. So it's been quite, you know, it's been on TMZ or it's been on the streamers' websites. I've tried to keep up with the story as much as possible when there's if there's been any news. But, you know, sometimes there hasn't been any news. So it's difficult to keep talking about cases when there's nothing to say. You know, I don't like that, really, just for the sake of it. And then this week, suddenly, it's all come to a head again, hasn't it, with all the talk of the kidnap notes, that now the FBI is saying they don't think are genuine. Why didn't they say that before? I feel like the FBI have intentionally let these kidnap notes generate attention while they're getting on with something else. Does that make sense? Anyway, let's have a look at what Sky News. So suddenly it's on Sky News again, and Reuters, of course. Where is it? Where is it? Where is it? Where is it? What does Savannah make of it all, I wonder? You know, so Savannah Guthrie, of course, and Nancy's famous daughter. So she was off the Today Show for a long time, obviously, when her mum first disappeared. Then she, you know, went back to work, and then she's been chosen to be the hostess of a new Wordle game show. And she's been carrying on as normal as possible. You know, at the end of the day, she's taken a lot of criticism for that. But, you know, when do you go back to work? You know, her mum's been kidnapped, or supposedly at the time. Her mum's disappeared. And how long do you put your life on hold for? You know, that's her job. That's what she does. That's how she earns money. She's got a family. She lives in New York. The other thing I'm sort of thinking is, have the FBI, so because Savannah came out, let's have a look at, just put Savannah up again. Savannah came out, didn't she, in one of the interviews that she's done, or one of the appeals that she's done. And she said she believed the first 2 ransom notes were genuine. Now, I'm presuming she believed that because the FBI told her that. Or maybe at the time the FBI were not sure if it was genuine, or if they were genuine or not. Have the FBI misled Savannah even deliberately? You know, it makes you wonder. Because at the end of the day, when something like this happens, everyone's a suspect. Savannah maybe was a suspect. You know, the thing is, when an 84-year-old woman of means disappears or is murdered, all the family are going to be under suspicion, because the first thing you're going to think of is who stands to gain from this lady dying or disappearing. And people who do stand to gain, of course, are always the family. You know, and families don't always love each other. You know, think, oh, you know, families sometimes hate each other. You know, I'm not saying that's what it is in this family. I'm just saying that is what happens sometimes. So, you know, you can't presume just because, oh, well, it's the family, but that means that they aren't capable of doing anything bad to their loved ones. You know, quite often it is the family. So did the FBI mislead Savannah? Just makes you wonder, doesn't it? Did they? Because she thought the first 2 kidnap notes were genuine. They were ready to pay, weren't they? They made those appeals, said, we understand. We are ready to pay. This is very valuable to us. Very strange language, but you know, this whole case has been weird from the minute it began. Weird, strange. But at the end of the day, it's the Guthrie family's reality. It's not just a case to them, it's their reality. And you know, I said just earlier, I popped out to the supermarket. And when I was coming back, I saw a gentleman walking down the road. And it really upset me, but it made me think of Nancy, because this man, he lives here in the village where I live. I've known him ever since I lived here. When I say known him, you know, when you live in a village, you see people around that you know. I don't know him as a friend. He had a shop here that sells electronic items. I've bought things from him. I think I got my air conditioning from him years ago. And I remember him, I don't know how old he is. I thought he was around my age, but he may well be older. I don't know. He may well be more Nancy's age. I know he's retired now. Anyway, during COVID, he'd already retired then, and his son took over the business. I used to see him when I was walking my dogs, when we were allowed a certain amount of exercise. I mean, if you had dogs, you were always allowed to take your dogs out. But then they brought in, you know, people could exercise at certain times, and it was certain times for certain ages. And I used to see him all around the village where I was walking my dogs, and my village is very hilly, let's say. So, you know, he would go on massive walks, you know, really big walks around the village. I would see him, you know, say hello, and the dogs would bark at him like they do. And then that was during COVID. And then I saw him walking for a little bit longer than that after COVID. And then I would see him walking with a stick. And, you know, much more slowly than he was walking before, because he always used to be really, you know, good pace up and down the hills. And because I used to think, because I always drive to where I take my dogs out, because it's a long walk there, and coming back, it's all uphill. And like when it's sunny, I've already walked the dogs. The last thing I want to do is walk back up the hill. And you know, it's a big hill. It's like 20-minute walk up the hill. So I used to think, God, he done half, you know, because he lives not far from me. So and I thought, God, he's really walking well, you know, getting up and down these hills, especially in the summer. Anyway, I saw him when I was on my way back from the shop earlier, and it was very sad, actually. I could actually cry, but it made me think of Nancy, because in these just short years, it's not that long since COVID, and also he was walking for a couple of years after COVID, you know, like a spring chicken, one walking around. He was really struggling to walk. He had a stick and he was slow and he was hunched over, and I just thought, oh my God, so sad. Old age is so sad, and it can happen so quickly that you go from being a fit sort of older person to literally struggling to just walk up the road. And it made me think of Nancy and what people had said about her, you know, because as Savannah said, she was struggling to walk to the mailbox, didn't she? You know, and then there was another person who does the garden of her neighbours that the streamers were talking to, and he said he couldn't, Nancy didn't seem to have any problem walking. So we don't really know how ambulatory Nancy was, do we? I mean, she was driving. She was supposed to drive to her friends that day, so, you know, she was mobile, but we don't really know how mobile she was. And it can change very quickly, as I say, watching this man. So sad, because you just know that isn't going to get any better. He may have had a stroke. I just don't know. I don't know what the circumstances are, but to see the difference in him was really, just within a couple of years, was really quite sad. And none of us know when that's going to happen to us. I mean, some people, it happens younger. You know, I've got a niece who struggles with rheumatoid arthritis. She's been, since she's 40, she's had problems with mobility, or even younger, perhaps. So you have to make the most of every day, every minute. If you can walk, you need to get out and walk, or even walking around the house. I do a lot of walking around the house because I don't like walking up and down hills. I like walking on flat surfaces. So I do a lot of walking up and down in the house, just to do some walking if I don't want to go out because it's too hot. Anyway, sorry, I'm digressing as usual. But it did upset me seeing that man and remembering how fit he was just literally maybe 2 years ago, the last time that I saw him, you know, up and down the hills in my village like a mountain goat. And now he's struggling just to walk to the bin. He was walking to the bin to put some rubbish in the bin. He could hardly walk. Very sad. Anyway, let's read this Sky News article. Okay, so Nancy Guthrie ransom notes were fake, the FBI says. One message sent to the celebrity news website TMZ had demanded millions of dollars in cryptocurrency, with her TV star daughter saying she was willing to pay. The 84-year-old had been missing since the beginning of February. Yeah, I agree, Kelly. Those, even the appeals. You know, I don't know. Is it just me? There's something about Savannah. There's something about Savannah. Probably because she's a TV star. She comes over quite false to me. Don't know what it is, but do you know what? You know, good morning presenters, quite often that's that part of their persona, isn't it? I don't think you ever see the real them, because, you know, they're a TV personality. Something about Savannah, but anyway. So all 3 ransom notes sent to media outlets following the disappearance of Nancy Guthrie were fake, according to the FBI. The 84-year-old mother of US breakfast show host Savannah Guthrie went missing on the 1st of February and has not been seen since. So when they say all 3, there was actually more than 3, wasn't there? There was the first one saying they had Nancy, and if they didn't pay, they were going to kill her. And if they had to pay by a certain time, there was a deadline, otherwise the amount was going to go up. Then there was another one from them, from the same people supposedly, saying, oopsie, she's dead. Oopsie, sorry, we didn't realise how ill she was. Oh my God, she just died on us. But not offering like to return her body, or not asking for money for the whereabouts of her body, just saying, whoops, it was an accident, she's dead. Now, if I was cynical, I could think that whoever the perpetrator was that had murdered Nancy. Now, don't forget, if the family had, if it was anything to do with Annie and Tommaso, saying they've been a kidnapping is a good way of covering up a murder. But at some point, they've got to have Nancy declared dead, because if you don't have someone declared dead, you can't cash in on their estate or whatever. They have to be declared as dead, don't they? Because as long as they're missing and not dead, nobody's going to get the benefit of Nancy's estate, are they? I don't know. So, 2 notes were sent to the media in the immediate aftermath of her disappearance, while a recent 3rd message claimed to know the kidnappers' identities. And don't forget, there's been more than one. The 3rd message, and then there was another one, then another one, all sent to TMZ. But speaking to the Reuters news agency, a senior FBI official confirmed that none of this correspondence is believed to be genuine. Don't you think it's funny that after all this week of all the flurry of activity over the ransom notes, now suddenly, boom, just as everyone's talking about it again, FBI go to Reuters. Yeah, they haven't done a press conference. They're not announcing it through TMZ or through the family or anything. They've gone to Reuters. Why is that? You could almost believe that the FBI have done this on purpose. Created the flurry of activity about the ransom notes and then deliberately nipped it in the bud. Are the FBI playing a clever psychological game with the perpetrators? Makes you wonder. The other thing that I was going to say, which I've now forgotten, but I'm sure I'll remember in a minute. Yeah, why don't they just release the ransom notes? If they're not genuine, how we've been told what's in them, but why don't they actually release the text, the actual emails? If they're not genuine, release them. Let's have a proper look at them instead of just little bits here and there. So this is the missing poster, missing person, vulnerable adult, Nancy Guthrie, 84 years old, female, 5'5", 150 pounds, brown hair, blue eyes, last seen on the evening of January the 31st, 2026, at her residence near East Skyline Drive and North Campbell Avenue. Unknown what clothing she would be wearing. Now that's odd, isn't it? Because what did Savannah say? Savannah said she was taken out of the house in her pajamas and no shoes. So, do we know what clothes she was in or don't we? Don't forget, we've not had the video from the Uber taking her to Tommaso's house, Tommaso and Annie's house. Why did she get an Uber? Why did she get an Uber? Now, maybe she didn't drive because she wanted to have a drink. She could have driven there. It's not far, it's only up the road. And then Tommaso brought her home. Why? Why didn't she get an Uber home? Had Tommaso not had a drink at the games after an evening or whatever? So, normally people don't mind going to pick you up, but then afterwards you'd get a taxi evening. That's how it normally works, isn't it? So I'll come and get you, but then you can get a taxi home. But no, this was the other way around. She got an Uber there, but Tommaso took her home. Strange, isn't it? It is strange. Was that, did she get an Uber there, and did Tommaso really take her home? Why did she not get an Uber to go home? Now, the thing is, let's just let our imagination fly a minute. So let's suppose that when Nancy went to Annie and Tommaso's house, she came to some harm there. Now, what we have to remember, though, is their son was there, from what we can gather. So would they really have done something while they're he's not a little boy who would have been tucked up in bed. He's not 3. He was, I presume, joining. We don't actually know who exactly was there on that games evening. Was it just Nancy, Tommaso, Annie and their son? Or were there more people invited? Do we know for sure? No. Then we know that Tommaso supposedly took her home. Did he though? Do we have any proof of that? Is there any door cam showing Tommaso dropping her off? Was somebody waiting in the garage for Nancy? As she went into the garage and she waved goodbye to Tommaso, he went off home. Was somebody there lying in wait for her? We don't know. These are, I feel like we're going to find these answers. But, yeah, I don't know, Kelly, if that's what some people are saying. The trouble is, some people are saying all sorts of things, like, that Tommaso's only lived in the USA for 5 years, which is a load of rubbish. Because the thing is, we're not getting any confirmation from the FBI or the Sheriff's Department. Nobody from the Sheriff's Department has said, or the FBI has said, oh, well, Tommaso couldn't go and pick Nancy up because he wasn't there at the time. That's why she had to get an Uber. Nobody's said that. So what we get instead is we get a load of different podcasters saying this, that, and the other. But to me, until we get the official confirmation, I just don't believe it. I don't know what to believe. Is that the reason Tommaso didn't pick her up? I don't know. Well, why don't the FBI tell us? Or the Sheriff's Department tell us, oh, Tommaso couldn't pick Nancy up because he was overseeing a football game. Fine. Well, why don't they tell us that? Why do they leave all this speculation? And we still haven't seen Nancy in the Uber. We've not heard from the Uber driver. He's probably been sworn to secrecy. We don't know what Nancy was wearing. Now we've got the FBI saying it's not known what she was wearing when she was taken, but we've got Savannah saying she's taken out of the house in her pajamas with no shoes on. How does she even know that? So, listen to this. Honestly, I feel like Cassandra because I've been saying like this right from the beginning. The development could raise doubts on an initial theory that Miss Guthrie was abducted for ransom to begin with. Of course she wasn't abducted for ransom. No, I'm sorry, nobody abducts an 84-year-old woman in poor health for ransom. Savannah Guthrie, who hosts the Today Show on NBC, had referred to the ransom demands in video messages and said she was willing to pay. Her mother, who had been in frail health with limited mobility, was last seen alive at her home in Tucson, Arizona on the 31st of July. Footage later emerged that showed an armed man in a ski mask tampering with her doorbell camera shortly before her disappearance. Now, they keep saying it's a man, but it could be a woman, couldn't it? A lot of people think it's for certain. They've got this torch in their mouth there. Oh, no, remember, because the other weird thing about this case, of course, is it wasn't cordoned off as a crime scene, was it? So Brian Entin went there and videoed the blood leading up to the porch. And the mat was still there. So this guy is stood on that mat with that torch in his mouth that he puts in his mouth, takes out of his mouth. Whatever other DNA might be dropping on that mat is still there. It was never taken away for testing. The doormat. Bloody, it's a joke, isn't it? It's a joke. Then it was cordoned off again. Anyway, but what was found on the porch, on the step, DNA test concluded that blood found on the front porch was a match for Nancy Guthrie. So there were all those blood droplets. Celebrity news website TMZ received the first note, which demanded cryptocurrency worth millions of dollars. The FBI attempted to test its authenticity by depositing a small amount of cryptocurrency in the account mentioned, but it was never claimed. It was about $130. Nobody's going to try and claim $130 and risk being caught. Are they? You know, it was just pointless. But anyway, never mind. It's a crazy case, this. Absolutely crazy. There's times I just think when it's found out who did this or what really happened, we will all be absolutely gobsmacked. It might end up being something nobody had ever even imagined. Let's have a look at this video.
You know, I don't have any comment on the story, and I'm not involved in our coverage, but I can't pretend I'm not here. And so since I am, I wanted to just take the opportunity to ask people to beg people to come forward. Somebody knows something. And this is a new story today that is on your radar, but this is the life that my sister lives, that I live, that my brother lives, that our extended families live, that our children live every day. And we are in agony. And we cannot be at peace. So no matter how much I try to come out here every day and smile and find that joy, and I will, I promise I will. This is a moment to tell you that we need your help. We're begging for your help. And I'm not going to miss that opportunity. And so please, if you're watching, yes, no matter how small, the reward is there. You can tell us, our children, and we love our mom, and we'll never stop comment on this story.
See, she says that, but then she was ringing up trying to get the streamers removed. We need your help. We need your help, but not you streamers. No, you can bugger off. You get off my mum's. Well, they weren't even on the property. They were just sat outside, you know, documenting what was going on. You know, I think it's very strange of Savannah, to be honest, to do that, because she is a journalist. If this was any, and I understand what she's saying, this is just another crime story to most people, but to her and her family is the life that they're leading. It's their mum who's gone missing. I understand all that. But Savannah, as a journalist, knows 100% that if this was a different case, a different person, she would be reporting on it. You know, that's what journalists do. And, you know, YouTube streamers, they're part of journalism now. And I honestly do think that there's so many families out there with missing loved ones who nobody gives a shit about, that nobody ever talks about. They have to clamour for a bit of attention from the media or the social media or mainstream media. And one thing, you know, Nancy, people have got invested in Nancy's story. They care about her being found, etc. So, you know, I don't understand why Savannah has been ringing the police department to get streamers removed and then going on and making appeals and say, we need your help. Anyway, so there's a $1 million reward on offer. Again, she's saying the family is in agony in the months since her mother's disappearance. Media coverage of the case in the US has waned considerably in recent months, with Savannah Guthrie acknowledging her mother may already be gone. Yeah. So the only people that were still reporting on it, she's ringing up to get them arrested and taken away. Strange. I just think it's all weird, this case, anyway. I just feel, I know, of course, I don't know, but I think I can imagine that if my mum went missing, I would want everybody talking about it. Everybody. Where's my mum? Talk about it. You know, go to church. That's the other strange thing about this case. People offered to help search for Nancy. Peamar County Police Department said, don't want any outside help. How can you not want any outside help to search? Really weird. It's almost as if maybe they know already where she is. I don't know, or they've got an idea. They don't think that the FBI haven't searched for her apart from the first couple of days. There's no searches, no new searches, no appeals in Spanish, you know, for all this that people think she might be in Mexico. They're more red herrings. And, you know, the anonymous tipster who rang up Las Madres Buscadoras, you know, the group in Mexico that go around looking for, you know, dead bodies, really, that might have been killed by the cartel and that cartel. Just